since the Dominion Society has started, there's been a lot of people who are kind of like having trouble or having problems with the ideas that we're presenting. And to be fair, I think it's going to have sort of, we're going to get laughed at for a little bit. But it reminds me of like when Trump first ran as a presidential candidate or GOP candidate before 2016. He was totally laughed at by everybody. His ideas were laughed out of the room. Nobody liked his ideas at all, but he persisted. And he became president. Everybody was adopting his ideas. They loved it. And I think that the ideas at Dominion Society are going to have a similar, trajectory, where we're going to face a lot of resistance. We're going to face a lot of ridicule, a lot of mockery at the beginning. But if we just kind of keep pressing on, similar to what Daniel said, of like almost kind of being boring to an extent, of just repeating the same thing over and over and over again, I think slowly but surely people are going to realize that these ideas are actually rock solid, and the best path forward to first assert who we are as a nation, and two, solve the problem with remigration. But to change the frame, okay, and I was kind of in a conversation with Robin Skies that was kind of like trickling off from this discourse. And he was like, I have an ethnic wife who's an immigrant. So like, you guys sound like white nationalists, basically. You guys sound like ethno-nationalists. And my initial reaction to that is, first of all, let's not deny the context. Okay. So with your friend, Crack, let's first identify the crisis that we're in. Canadian identity is being pulverized to dust by radical multiculturalism and mass immigration. Like, this is an existential crisis that is happening right now. And I'm sure your friend would agree. So it's like, hey, well, what about my ethnicity? Well, let's focus on the fact that Canadian identity is basically up for grabs right now. And that's kind of like the second problem, which is whoever you talk to, they all have this liberal propagandized idea that the definition of Canadian is up for grabs. And I pointed this out to Robin. It's like, wait a minute, you want your immigrant wife to be Canadian. Same with the temporary foreign workers. They want to be Canadian too. These international students, they want to be Canadian too. This is the crux of part of the problem, is this attitude that the definition of Canadian is totally up for grabs. All these people in India, they're just future Canadians. And of course, we know this is not just this is not hyperbole, what I'm talking about. This is basically rhetoric pushed by Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre. Anyone from anywhere can do anything. Doesn't matter about your birthplace, your background, or your bloodline. This is just post-nationalist liberal slop all over again. And with these Conservative Party gatekeepers, what they're trying to pitch is, let's just go back to what the liberals were saying in the 2000s. Like, that's what they want. That's their solution. Let's just go back to some softer version of what Canadian identity is. Still not really specific, still kind of up for grabs, something to do with values. But that is like, first of all, that's not correct. That's not true. That's not based in historical fact. That is just something that is nice and easy and feels kind of safer for people to adopt. With Dominion Society, I think it's it's anchoring the conversation by saying, hey, let's base the definition of Canadian, crazy idea, on historical fact. Let's base it off the historical ancestry of who built the nation. And what I like about Dominion Society as well is they're kind of incorporating the history into different sort of, not hyphenated Canadians, but like the term heritage Canadians. This sort of incorporates people who are not of the founding stock, but were helped like settle the nation as well. But just to kind of address your question, Crack, of like, oh, what about my ethnic friend who doesn't fit in? Help them first of all, reassert or like remind them of the context of that we're in, where we have, temporary foreign workers, all sorts of Indians flooding into this nation and calling themselves Canadian. They don't even speak English. They're driving truck. They're crashing truck. This is an existential crisis, and the definition of Canadian is not up for grabs. Actually, sorry if that offends you. Sorry if you find that offensive. But that is just the truth of it. And it should turn into a conversation or an encouragement of like, if you remember a Canada that you want back, if there's some sort of essence of this country that you love and appreciate, just respect the fact that this came from the historical ancestors who built this nation. You don't have to be ethnically pure and part of the club, but you have to respect the people who found and developed this nation. That's what's important. Anybody of any color can do that and support, the survival of Canada, because that's really what we're dealing with. Whenever I hear someone talk about, hey, my background, and I don't know if it's pure enough, and like, am I Canadian too? And this isn't like a personal attack at anybody, but it's just kind of like insecurity, I guess. Like, people are like insecure, and it's like, I'm not that purely Canadian either. Like, my dad is an immigrant. He moved here when he was like one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about that, like, and it's similar to what I said earlier. Like, if you establish the frame with people that there is potentially millions of people who should be deported, and that's just based on the existing laws that we have right now in Canada, the political will to enforce the law to deport people, it's not a very strong will, guys. It is not a very strong will to do that. We need to build that will to have our political class, to have the citizens be like, yeah, you know what? We need to get the people out of here that are illegally here. And once again, I think the anchor that Dominion Society sets with the frame of, well, this is what historically, ethnically a Canadian is, by establishing that, it really sets the frame properly. And I think by virtue of that, it makes people want to respect the history of the nation. It makes people want to assimilate. It makes people more like insecure. And I just think this is almost like a good thing, because it's establishing an authority of, what a Canadian is, what Canada is, what it is, and what it is not. And if we can, invigorate that with more people across the country, things will naturally start to happen, or they will naturally build the will to want to deport people here who are here illegally. People will naturally want to assimilate more. So but the summary of what I'm trying to say is, by virtue of kind of being very confident and unapologetic with asserting what Canadian identity is, even if it doesn't include you, but by virtue of, confidently telling people, no, this is the truth of what a Canadian is. These people are not. By virtue of doing that, I think a lot of things happen at once. It gets people to even start thinking in these terms. It starts to dispel all of the post-national liberal propaganda nonsense that's quite frankly been programmed to us for decades, pretty well half a century now. And I think there's just so many beneficial things come from that. I made a similar TikTok that talked about why racism is a good thing. And it was essentially like, by shaming these people who are wearing turbans and their kind of detestable, horrible behavior, people who are wearing turbans are like, oh shit, they're insecure now. They're like, oh shit, I better try to fit in. I better not be a piece of shit. And it's like, yeah, good idea. And it's only by kind of this tough love, or kind of by stating the facts and asserting like what we want in the country, what our standards are. It's only by like vocalizing that confidently do these things start to happen.